Hello and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight I'm very pleased that we have another special show, and this one is a contemporary artist special with 6 artists from Massachusetts, and they're all fantastic, wonderful artists, as I'm sure you'll see once you see their work. With me tonight we have Paul Pedulla. How are you, Paul?
Hey, Tom. Great to be here.
Thanks for being here, Paul. And some people may know that your brother is the director of our show, Pete Pedulla.
That's right.
He's works here for a long time at Chelmsford Telemedia. He's one of maybe the assistant director of Chelmsford Telemedia or something. He's way up there. And he's doing great. And so it's great to finally have you on the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And you grew up in Chelmsford, right? Well,
I did.
And went to Chelmsford high schools all the way through?
I actually was in this room as a TV anchorman in junior high.
Really?
Yeah, I was part of the morning news show.
The morning news show.
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Oh, so in this
In this very room.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you had no trouble finding the place
No.
anyway, we know that. Well, thanks for being here, Paul. We'll come back and talk to all of you quite a bit later on. Thanks, Paul. And we have my friend Don Roulette with us tonight. How are you, Don?
I'm fine. Great to be with you today.
Hey, I'm so glad you could be here, Don. Don has a studio at Western Avenue in Lowell, right, Don?
Yes.
And that's where I probably first met you, right?
I believe so.
And how long have you been there at Western Avenue?
Almost 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah. And I've been a member of the Chelmsford Art Society.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've been to many of the shows there, and we've met there as well.
Yes, you went to our meeting last month, right? Chelmsford Art Society, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great. Matter of
Demonstration.
fact, the demonstration was wonderful.
It was the most well-attended demonstration that I could remember in many years. There must have been over 50 people there.
Yes, it was really well attended, and it was a great demonstration.
Yeah, he had a lot of sense of humor. What was his name again? Do you remember?
Stapleton
Stapleton
yes.
Kearns. I see. Yeah, thank you. Great guy. Well, thanks, Don, for
my
being
pleasure.
here. And we have my friend Trina Teal with us tonight. How are you, Trina?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good, thanks. Trina, you did a demonstration at the library just a couple of days ago, right? On
Yes,
Saturday.
I did. Yeah.
It was great.
Yep. It was actually part of the Art Society, their demonstration link, but it was on a Saturday rather than their normal night because it was at the library.
And you did a wonderful job. It was about using the computer to make art, right? Painting with the computer?
Yes, it was primarily about using the iPad as sort of a step beyond the sketchbook, but it also did talk about creativity and the use of a blog. So it was sort of merging all those 3 things together.
It was great. As you saw my post on Facebook, right, how much I enjoyed it. The
Yes.
next day I posted it.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. So we'll talk to you in a couple of minutes,
Okay.
Trina. And we also have my friend Rita Thompson with us today.
Hello.
Hi. Along with Trina and Donna Berger have studios at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts,
Yes,
right, Rita?
that's right.
And you 3 have been there pretty much since it became the Chelmsford Center for the Arts,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And you have studios there, and you've been an artist for a long time, right? We'll talk more about it later, but
Yeah, very long time.
yeah,
Too long.
wonderful. And we'll talk all about your background. So thanks for
All right.
being here, Rita.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we have my friend Paula Mingolelli with us, another former Chelmsford person,
Yes.
now temporarily living in Tingsboro.
Temporarily.
Maybe. Yeah, you and your husband Pat were big fixtures here in Chelmsford in the political
Yes.
scene.
Yes.
And so Paula is an extraordinary, you're all extraordinary artists, but in fact, I have bookmarks of Paula Mingolelli's that every night I'm reading my book about Norman Rockwell at the moment, and she has this beautiful pen and ink and watercolor bookmarks that she practically gave to me, or did give to me, and they're fantastic.
You're
Was that to get on my show?
No,
No, I'm only kidding. I'm
That's
only
because
kidding.
of your support. You come up to the studio all the time.
And you
I
are so
appreciate it.
wonderful too. You and very often Peggy is there. I think,
Yes,
and
we're there all the
you're
time.
always so friendly and have the best desserts and
You
everything,
do.
which I love.
Good
You got to
food.
visit Paula Mingolelli's. We're talking at her Western Avenue
Right.
studio in Lowell, where Don has a place,
Yes. Myself.
and Don and Virginia. But we'll get thanks
Okay, you're
for
welcome.
being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we have Virginia Peck with us tonight, a wonderful artist. Hi,
Thank you.
Virginia.
Hi.
Virginia has a studio also at Western Avenue Studios in Lowell.
Right. Just
And-
about a year. That's all. Not as long as.
Oh, you've been there about a year, but you've been a very successful artist for a while, right? Because you had a studio or representation on Newbury Street in Boston, right?
Yeah, and I've actually connected with them again recently, so I'm
Yeah.
going to be back working with them again. So
Wonderful. And the thing about Virginia Peck, which is so, I think, extraordinary, is that I have a page on Facebook with almost 1,800 subscribers on it called Daily Meditations. And many of you, if not all of you, are on that page. So I look on the internet for wonderful artists, right, with their paintings to go along with the quotes. And the quotes are non-denominational, just uplifting type quotes, you know. So I found Virginia Peck's work, right, because she does these beautiful paintings of Buddhas and other types of subject matter, but the Buddhas stuck out to me in particular because they're very spiritual. So 2 or 3 or 4 number of times over like a year, I've been using Virginia's works along with my daily meditations posts, and then I somehow came across a Facebook post that she lives and is working or has a studio right in Lowell. I couldn't believe it. I said, Virginia Peck is near me? I couldn't believe it. So I couldn't wait to get to the Western Avenue studios and meet you,
yeah,
which I ultimately did, and you are such a wonderful spiritual person. It was fantastic to meet you.
thank you, thank you.
And I'm sure everybody will see that once we talk more in the show and see your beautiful paintings. You brought a couple of paintings with us tonight. So, and Virginia is just, you're all amazing artists. So thank you all so much for being here, first of all. So maybe if we could start a little more in-depth discussion with Paul. Is that okay, Paul?
Sure.
Paul, is it okay if we, could you hold up the painting you
absolutely.
brought with us tonight? And could you tell us a little bit about this painting, what medium it is, and when you,
The title of the painting is Around the Dune,
around the dune? Yeah, you could. Yeah, good.
and it's an acrylic painting, acrylic on canvas. And I guess I painted this, it was either 2013 or 2012, I guess. I just had to look.
And it's acrylic, and you do a number with a lot with the blue sky like that, which everybody loves,
Yep.
and then some with the roads, though. What is the significance of the roads and the yellow lines on the road or anything? Is there a meaning to them, or?
The roads, I love painting roads. I'm not exactly sure why. But certain roads will catch my attention, and I feel like I need to paint them. Some of them are out of my head, some of them are imaginary,
Yes,
and
yeah.
some of them are real roads. So.
Yeah. And where did you learn to paint so wonderfully, Paul?
I'm actually a relatively new painter. I started in 2006. and
Painting, fine art kind of?
Yeah, I started taking classes, and I can actually remember being in this school in the 8th grade when art was finally not mandatory anymore, and thought, when am I going to do art again? And it didn't happen again until 2006, but things have happened kind of fast since then.
Yeah, Paul is very successful now with his work, selling it, I think, throughout the world, right? Didn't you sell one in Germany a while
Yeah.
ago, and for thousands of dollars, right, Paul?
Yeah.
So you're doing extremely well, especially since you've only been painting since 2006.
I know.
I can't get over it. It's like amazing.
Well, representation has had a lot to do with it. So
Oh, and which galleries represent your work?
I'm represented by Serena and Lily, and they're out of California, but they are worldwide. So that's been a big help. And I'm represented by Provincetown Gallery called Alden Gallery, and Columbus, Ohio Gallery called the Sharon Weiss Gallery, and Boston Art in the Seaport District. And I show a lot of Thomas Moser Boston on Arlington Street.
And how did you get into these galleries, Paul? Could you say?
Sure. They're all for different reasons, but mostly they saw me in the South End. I have a studio at 450 Harrison Avenue in Boston. And most of my contacts have come through that visibility.
Yeah.
Serena and Lily, however, they found me through the United South End Artists website, and that's how they contacted me.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so many people love your work, right? Paul, it must be a great feeling, right, to see whenever you post something on Facebook, gets tons of thumbs up and comments.
It's been a wild ride, yeah.
Yeah, and then the sales is a great validation
Yeah.
of your work, especially the prices that you're getting, which is wonderful. And your work seems to me, I call it kind of stark, uncluttered, Edward Hopper-esque in a way, in the sense that he also had a lot of uncluttered starkness to his work. And you very often have an expanse of blue skies, sometimes with a little bit of clouds like you have here. And then
The
sometimes
figures, of
with-
course, are new. So
Yeah, and lately you've been selling a couple of your figurative works,
Yeah.
right? Which is interesting. So why do you feel the urge to paint in such an uncluttered kind of
it's a good question.
style?
I think probably there's a lot about my personality that's kind of uncluttered too. So maybe it's reflected onto the canvas. But I think the way I describe it is probably what I leave out of my work is just as important as what I put into it.
Yes, and it appeals to so many people. This, you know, the Edward Hopper type style, whatever, just uncluttered. Not that you paint exactly like him because you don't, but that's always appealed to me. Edward Hopper is one of my favorite artists, way, way up there, if not my favorite. I know just about every one of his works. I visited his exhibits in New York and Boston, and I just love that clean nature and the control of colors. And I think you have that tremendous control as well. You know, you
thank
don't
you.
put many, many colors in there, and you seem to control everything so well. And very often you put the top of a building, like the top floor, you know,
Right.
say it with a V,
Right.
along with the big expanse of a sky, and sometimes there'll be two of these little V tops of the houses in different colors, and you might call it green shade or
Right.
whatever. And it's so interesting that you came up with that style, which I haven't seen it exactly like that in anybody
No,
else.
I can't say I have either, but I definitely have some unusual compositions.
And I think that's what sets you apart, Paul, you know, and why you're so successful, because I think people are starting to collect you now as for future appreciation, you might say, you know what I mean? And that's a wonderful validation of your work.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'll come back later and
Sure.
we'll see what Don has been doing. So Don, could you hold
Certainly.
up your painting there? And what
This one is called Storm Mood, and it
Storm Mood.
really is the mood. The emotional part of painting is what excites me about a painting, and this is done similar to an English painter. It would be more in the style of the English painters. This is completely
Yes.
from imagination. It started out as something other than what it ended up being. And somewhere in the middle of the sky, it all of a sudden started to make me think of something else. And so I totally changed what my initial idea was about the painting and went strictly for the emotional impact of the sky. And from that kind of mood of the storm coming in, and there's still light, so you can still see the buildings and the lambs, you know, the sheep that are in the field. And it's really based on the English painters. Over the years, I've been a painter, but I've also been a collector of art. While collecting art, one of my favorite things is English watercolorists, and so over the years, I've been able to buy and collect a number of really good English painters, and their work has always, you know, been an inspiration to what I do. And I like the mood. My teachers were always just going about that. It's mood. They paint the mood, and my teacher was always more, if you know Carlton Plummer's work, Carlton would be definitely considered a high-key painter. And I studied with Carlton also. He was one of my teachers. But I tend to be a low-key painter, meaning they're very calm. And if you see Carlton's work, it's really, it has some kind of impact because of it's that orange and the purples that he puts in it. And but I do try to achieve the same ends, but using different means and by going to the kind of quiet and places. Because I was exhibiting my work in Chelmsford recently, and a lady came up to the exhibit, stood there, and was just breathing. And she says, "Thanks, I just needed that." It was just a moment because there's the hustle and bustle of what's going on all around us. And she felt like, she says, "I just needed that moment of calm." And so that's really what I try to achieve in the paintings that I paint. They're usually memories or reflections of things that are calm. And
Well, it's a wonderful piece. Is that one in your studio at
this
the moment?
one,
Or is it sold?
This is sold, and I'm actually
not-
holding it because they're buying it on time. So I still had it, and so I figured I would bring it because
I know
it's going
it's-
to a private collection in Westford, and so there'll be a chance that they'll get to see it on TV.
I'm not surprised it's sold because it's a wonderful painting.
Thank
and
you.
it's a classic, I think, as you said. You know, it reminds me of 19th century painting and beautiful control of the colors, I think, and you know, you didn't accentuate any brightness or whatever that would. An amateur might do that, you know, just have too much red or something or bright colors, and you controlled it so well that it's a unified composition that in anybody's home, in Westford or Chelmsford or anywhere, a classy home, that would fit right in as a beautiful
Thank you. I was
piece
very
of art.
pleased with this particular. This also was the best in show when I did a recent show in Drake-It and
Oh, wonderful! The
in
best.
Harmony.
Wow!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So that was a thrill because the artists that were doing the judging were all artists that I respected, and it was a thrill to end up winning that particular prize.
Yes, and if people haven't been to the studios at Western Avenue, please stop by and see John and Virginia is there, and Paula, and everybody is so friendly there. Not only these artists, but all of them.
It's a wonderful place to paint, and if you're interested in buying art, I recommend. The price point is anywhere from $50 to, wow.
Yeah, many thousands of.
You can spend as much as you can bring.
Yes, yeah.
But there's something for everybody.
And all the artists are so friendly, and you have the open houses the first Saturday of every month,
Yes.
right? From noon to 5 p.m.
Yes.
And Western Avenue is in Lowell, off of School Street, you might
Right.
say, and it's right at the street is called Western Avenue. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's an old like factory mill buildings which are wonderfully refurbished and designated to be used for artists.
Yeah,
and it's a fabulous place.
It's one of the largest complexes of its type in the eastern United States.
Wow.
There are
there's
probably
hundreds.
over 300 artists in there now.
Wow. Wow.
And it really is an amazing place. It's great to go there in the morning, and you have other artists of like minds, and you can bounce ideas off of your friends. You know, you can walk to Paula's studio and say, Paula, what are you working on today? You know, and just,
it's great.
it really is. It's a great place to be.
And I've been there in your studio where people would come in and you were selling to people right while I was there. And so you do very well there, Don.
Yeah,
It's
it's
fantastic.
worked out very well, yes.
Well, I'll come back later and
Okay.
and talk. Thanks. So, Trina, could you show us what you brought today?
Sure.
Nice. What is it? Acrylic?
This is acrylic, and this is called Nuance, and it is from a series of sunflower paintings that I did, and I think I tend to be more of a representational artist. I start with something representational, but I want to go beyond photographic, and I'm fascinated by what makes art, and what is it that makes something art, and there's so many different kinds of art. And so when I look at a subject, I try to decide if it's going to sort of captivate me and I'm going to be able to paint it for that long of a time. You know, to pay enough attention, you really have to look at a flower for a long time to paint it. And am I going to be, you know, captivated by it? And so usually when I look at a flower, I look for some sort of a movement or a sway or an energy in it, and that's what I'm trying to captivate, and that's what I'm going for. And with sunflowers in particular, I think they were my first flower to really fall in love with because they have such a mass. They're very figurative, and I love figure drawing, figure painting. That was something I loved when I was in school. And so painting sunflowers was like painting figures to me. They had parts, they had mass, they had grace, and that's what I wanted to go for.
And I think maybe this painting, I've used it on the daily meditations, I believe. I've loved all of your paintings and your sunflowers. I've used them numerous times to go with these uplifting quotes because they're beautiful, natural, kind of well done paintings that a lot of people enjoy. In fact, I just used one of your paintings of a flower about 4 days ago, and it received over 1,200 page views within one day. It was amazing.
That's very nice.
And it was, I think it was a new one that you did. It was amazingly beautiful, as is this one. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love the way you control your colors so well. You know, you see, it's like the green and the yellows. You don't have too many colors all over the place, but you have a variety of tones of the same colors, you know, different yellows and oranges and greens.
Yeah.
And it's just
This
wonderful.
flower in particular, I call it Nuance, and it had sort of a a flickering kind of light that captivated me, and it was as if it was hinting something. And so that's when I went with the word, with the title nuance.
Nice.
I often title my paintings with just one word,
Yeah,
maybe one
yeah.
or two words, but usually one word, and it's sort of a descriptive word like that nuance. Or
And you studied graphic design, is that right, Trina?
well,
In-
I majored in painting, but I got a concentration in graphic design, and I have worked in graphic design ever since I graduated. So
Wonderful.
So
And so, because you do that in addition to the fine art painting, right?
yes,
And you have a studio at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts on
Right.
North Road in Chelmsford.
right.
And people could visit you there periodically? Or
Yeah.
do you have set hours or no?
I don't have set hours. My graphic design freelance work is very, you don't know when it's going to come in, and then I've recently started teaching at a local place called the Art of Wine,
Yeah.
where we help people get to experience paint for the first time, and it's a thrill to be a part of because so many people don't get to paint, and they don't get to experience what I love about painting, and I'm just so excited when I hear somebody will say in the class, they'll say, "This is so fun," and it just like lights up my night.
And as I always write to you, Trina, after your students post pictures of the paintings, what a great teacher you are, because these are amateur artists and they paint these boats and these butterflies and scenes so well, I think, just after taking one of your classes there that night.
Well, I lead them
Okay.
through it step by step.
Step
If
by
they
step,
follow
yeah.
me, they can do it. If
Yeah.
they do it on their own, they can do it. There is no right or wrong. So,
Yeah. And I think it's what, $39 or something? Or-
yeah, I think it's 35. I'm not
35,
totally
yeah.
sure.
And then they have like 3 samples of wine if
Yes.
they want during
Yep.
the night.
Yep.
And the supplies, are they included as well?
Yes, everything's included. They
Oh.
go home with a 16 by 20 painting.
It's amazing. And they have a good time for
Yeah.
what, 2 hours?
Two and a half hours.
And is there a website where they could
Yes,
subscribe?
it's The Art of Wine in Lowell, and it's part of Tudo Bene Cellars.
Tuno Bene.
Tudo Bene
Oh, Tudo.
Cellars, which is a wine and cheese shop.
Nice. Well, thank you, Trina. We'll come back later. Thanks. And you have another painting we can look at later, right? Hi, Rita.
Hey, Tom.
Hi. So you brought a painting with us today, right? Could you
Yes.
tell us a little about your painting, Rita?
Well, I call this painting Wednesday. I had a dry period, which I have every so often.
Oh, yeah.
And on Wednesday, I decided I would use the cobalt blue,
Yeah.
cobalt teal,
Yeah.
brown, and a yellow, and just see what happened.
And when was this, Rita? Did
And
you-
this was in November.
in November,
In November, yeah.
And you painted that
In one day.
in one day in November.
Well, I looked at it the next day, and there was a little tweak here and there. And a lot of times, I just give the paintings numbers,
Yeah.
number 1, 2010, or whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And this time, I have a couple that worked on a particular day, and I have a painting called Monday
Yeah.
because it worked on Monday.
Nice.
And
nice.
this is Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I paint abstracts now. I've
Yeah,
been
which is
paint-
nice. Yeah, we get to. Would you mind lowering it a little bit
Not
so
at
we
all.
could see you? The director might get mad at me if I didn't ask you that. I don't know, but sometimes, it's just so we could see you a little
Yes.
bit. Oh, you didn't
No,
have
that's-
to move
that's
it all the
fine.
way down?
That's fine.
Oh, but you have an interesting story how you studied art for a long time. You were painting more representative, realistic paintings.
Yes.
Remember you told us at one of your art demonstrations, and then you found it wasn't fun anymore, and you moved over to abstract, right? Could you explain what happened there?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the city, and I really relate to city buildings. 3-deckers, I love them.
Yeah.
The interiors with the nasty furniture and the moldings, the great details in the interior. So I was painting those kind of things.
Yes.
And so there's, architecture, the tearing of architecture and perspective,
Yes.
which you're always under.
Yeah.
And for years I did that,
Yeah.
many years.
And sold the paintings.
Yeah,
Were you also
so-
doing graphic design
No,
commercially, or
no, I was painting
Oh.
full-time and teaching.
and teaching,
And teaching.
art or something?
Yeah,
Oh, great, great.
yeah. I had an acrylic workshop.
Did you get a degree in art of some
Well,
sort?
actually, I was an art major from the 7th grade.
Oh, you were.
Boston
Wow.
Public Schools back then were excellent with the art.
Wow.
And I went to the after-school program at the Museum of Fine Arts in high school.
Wow.
And then I attended the museum school.
So you've been studying art your whole life.
Yeah.
Right. So you always knew you wanted to be an artist, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I love Edward Hopper. He's one of my
Oh,
favorites.
good, wonderful,
The
yeah.
city paintings, yeah.
Every
yeah.
time people see me, they know I love Edward Hopper. I also post many of his on daily meditations because it goes so well with peace and quiet and love and that kind of thing, compassion. So Rita, you're more comfortable with the abstract type of painting,
Well, what
right?
happened is I'm doing a series of blue houses. There's certain houses that are painted, they're actually painted in ultramarine blue, a screaming ultramarine blue with white trim. There's some in Cambridge, there's some in Dorchester, there's one in Somerville. Whenever I see one, I take a picture of it and then I paint it.
Yeah, nice.
So I
seen
had a
some.
series of the blue
Nice.
houses, and I still have some in the can that I haven't done yet.
Oh,
And the
yeah,
last
yeah.
one I did in 2005, it was Cambridge Blue number 3.
Yeah.
And it was a Greek Revival 3-decker, and I did it from the front. So we had the double bay,
Yeah.
and the columns, and the dentals, and just everything associated with it. And it took
Wonderful.
more than 6 months, because I worked on other things at the same time. But at the end, it owned me. I didn't own the painting, and it was like, this
Oh,
isn't fun
yeah.
anymore.
Yes.
What-
Yeah.
And I found out that I had to do a painting. It was being exhibited in a gallery in Haverhill, and the owner's mother had died of pancreatic cancer, and purple is the color. So he says, "Could you do a purple painting that we could have a silent auction?" So I had a day to do it,
Yeah.
and I said, "What could I do in a day?"
Yeah.
I know. So I said, "Well, I'll try a Jackson Pollock."
Yes,
So I
yeah.
got some purple and some white, and just and
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was beautiful. And I
Nice.
said, "Boy, this is fun."
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I had some paint left over, so I well, I'll try another one.
Yeah. And you've been
And
doing it a lot lately, right?
2005,
The
yeah,
abstract. Since
2005. Yeah, now and then I'll crank out a real one, but
And you,
I like the color and texture. That's what it's about.
yes, yeah, you have good control of color. I think you paint beautiful paintings.
Well, thank you.
And you have a studio also at the Trumpton Center for the Arts, as we
Yes.
mentioned. And do you have set hours there too, or just
Well,
period?
I try to come in Monday through Friday, usually from
Yeah.
10 to 3 or 4 or
10 to
something
3?
like that. But
And is the
sometimes
front door open? I'm sorry, or the back door?
it depends on what's going on in the building.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But people could call me.
Oh, if they wanted to come in,
Yeah.
if the door was locked.
Yeah.
But if the door is open, they could go up the stairs.
Yeah.
You're on the main floor.
On the first
There's
floor.
a basement floor, the main floor, the second floor. You're on the
Yep.
main floor, all the
Mhm.
three
Right next
artists.
to Trina. Right next to Trina.
Nice. So, well, wonderful, Rita. I'll come back later. We'll talk some more,
All
hopefully.
right.
Thanks. And we have Paula Mingolelli, my good friend, with us. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Oh, this is that one I saw in your studio. Remember recently? I said,
Yes.
Bring that to the show. I love it."
This
And I
is-
use it as a daily meditation
Yes,
already,
you
I
did. I
believe.
thank you very much. And well, a lot of people walking by my studio, they're
Is it?
stopping
Yeah,
and they're
it's
saying, "Was that your painting?" So this is a little out of the realm of what I usually paint. I usually am a true watercolorist, representational, but I can go out of the box, when I want to. So I decided I've been mesmerized by these sunsets or the storms rolling in. I've been taking a lot of reference photos and everything from Florida. So this was my first one that I just completed. And then it's in oils, and it's called Storms Arising.
Storms are, I love it.
I love
It's
color.
acrylic or
It's oil.
oil?
This one is oil.
You do everything.
I
right?
go
oil,
from acrylic to
watercolor,
oil
pen
to
and ink.
whatever suits my
Yeah.
fancy at that time, whatever I feel like doing. But this one here, I'm a color person. I love vibrant color, and so this is definitely representation of the color.
That you might have
Vibrant color.
Vibrant color, yes, yeah. Are you going to do more like this? Because so many people loved it, right, Paula?
I'm doing a series of this. This will be on display in November. Another woman and I from Western Area having a 2-man show,
Oh.
and it's going to be called Dual Interpretation. We're going to interpret a similar reference, and she's going to use her style and medium, and I'm going to use mine. So there will be a wall with sunsets.
Where will this show
I'm sorry,
be?
that's at Western Ave in the
In-
Loading
in
Dock
what?
Gallery.
At the Loading
At the
Dock
Loading
Gallery?
Dock
Just the
Gallery.
two,
Come November.
two people will be featured, you and
Yes.
this other person?
Yes.
Who's
Denise,
the other person?
Denise Reynes.
Oh, I know Denise, yeah,
yes,
she's been
Denise
painting a lot
Reynes.
lately, too.
She's been painting quite a bit.
My God. Well, this
So-
is wonderful. So this is oil.
This is
and
oil.
Is this quick drying oil, or is it the regular
No,
slow
no, no.
drying
This
type?
is your true. Your true. It's not your water-based oils, but it takes really about a week to really dry. Maybe a little longer for the whiter areas because white's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And they're probably 15, 20 layers of paint on this.
Wow.
Glazing.
Oh
of
my
paint.
God, yeah.
So that's how I paint, whether it's in watercolors or oils or acrylics.
Has this sold yet, Paul?
Not sold yet. Not that if I could get a buy for it now, it'd be fine. But I do need it for the show in November. But I can paint another one.
Yeah, well, you could ask her to borrow it for a show too if you want. I
Exactly.
think.
That's correct.
That's wonderful. Well, this is a beautiful piece. I hope
Yeah.
you do many more like
I
this,
hope to.
Paul.
I
And
hope
did
to.
you study art for a long time as
I've
well?
been doing art since, I would say, my first formal training was about 8 years old when I did a 3-month correspondence course. I'm sure everyone remembers that little article in Life magazine. Can you draw?
Yeah,
My mother actually did it
On
for me.
matchbooks, yeah.
Yes, she actually. We did a correspondence course.
That's fantastic. And then did you study in
Well,
high school
what
and
happens
college as well?
in high school, I went to a Catholic high school and they had no art. So I took private lessons with a gentleman who was the director of art at Boston State College then, and I went to the Saturday program at Mass College of Art.
Wow.
And then I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Mass College of Art.
A Bachelor of Fine
Fine
Arts,
Arts,
Mass.
yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So-
And what an artist you are too, Paula.
Oh,
The
thank
work
you.
that Paula does. If you got to visit her studio and see this work. It's so
Quite a
detailed
variety.
and beautiful. I mean, a lot of it is realistic,
Right.
beautiful, detailed. I don't know how you have the patience for it,
No,
but you do, though.
Right. I do have
Somehow you
some-
do it.
I do have some abstract pen and inks, but they're still detailed.
Yeah.
They're still detailed.
Even the bookmarks you gave me, all the work you put into a little bookmark.
Yes.
It's like 2 inches by 5 inches, and it's amazing.
They are detailed.
And this pen and
Right.
excuse me, I'm getting over a cold.
That's
so it's
okay.
fine. It's my
and
lungs.
I do teach at Western Ave. I have a studio at Western Ave. I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays is oil and acrylic studio class. Thursday is beginning watercolor. And I also do that paint along that Trina had mentioned. Privately, myself, I have one this coming Saturday. It's
Oh,
to
you
reveal
do?
the artist in
And
you
where's that?
at my studio.
At your studio. And how many people generally
I
go?
take about 8 to 10, no more
Oh,
than 8
that's
to 10.
nice. And what do you charge for that?
It's
Paul?
$35 a person.
35. So if anybody's interested in that,
They contact me.
and what's the best way to contact? Could you give out
Well-
your website or your whatever page you want? Your phone
um,
number? You could give that out if you
On
want.
my blog, you know,
Yeah.
Mingolelli at blogspot.com, or my email address,
Which is
thecreativehands@comcast.net.
thecreativehands@comcast.net. Beautiful. Well, hopefully people get in touch with you. It
Well,
sounds great.
it's a fun
Along with
thing.
Trina's classes.
Yes.
Those sound fantastic.
Yes,
Gee.
all right.
Well, thank you very
Okay.
much, Paul. We'll talk more
Thank
in a
you.
minute. Our
Okay.
time is zipping by. I can't believe it, right? But
No.
I'm having so much fun. Are you guys having fun? No? And
Sure.
hi, Virginia.
Hi,
So
Tom.
I see you have one of your beautiful Buddha paintings, right?
Yeah, it looks like we can't get the whole
Oh.
thing in. There we go.
Maybe you could put it next to me. How about like this? And then we could see you and your and
Okay.
Great. And so this is the type of painting I saw on the internet. Somehow I found these Buddha paintings that Virginia does in a variety of colors, but similar to this, you know, a similar theme, uncluttered, beautifully drawn, beautifully executed. And I found these paintings years ago, and I used them on my daily meditations page on Facebook. And now we have the genuine artist right here. I can't believe it. Virginia Peck is right here. So Virginia, could you tell us a little bit about a painting like this and
Sure.
the medium you use, what it means, why you started doing them?
Sure. When I first started doing the Buddha paintings, I was working in oil.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Lowell and I got a loft condo right on the river.
Yeah.
And and I was working in my loft, and I decided I didn't want the smell of the paint thinners and stuff 24/7.
Yeah.
And so I switched to acrylic. And I believe this one is one of the acrylic ones. And so I begin with a abstract underpainting, very colorful abstract underpainting that, I have no idea how the painting will go on top of it, but I just let loose, have fun. And then I choose, a Buddha image. And whenever I travel, I go to museums and I take pictures of all the Buddhas. Everyone always says, "Oh, have you been to Southeast Asia?" No. But people have said, "I think you were Asian in a previous lifetime," and I think you're right.
Yes, yeah. So you have
and
the underpainting.
So I have
right?
the underpainting,
What-
and then with charcoal, I draw on the image,
Yeah.
and then I start layering complementary colors
Yeah.
on top of the underpainting colors. And
So in this case, it would be the blue and orange kind of complementary colors?
Yeah,
Which-
yeah, you see a lot of that. This is showing a lot of the underpainting here. I didn't cover it up as much, so
Yeah.
you get to see a little of it here.
Yeah, which is like a rose color?
Well,
That
it's-
underpainting?
it's
What?
many, I mean,
oh,
that's
oh,
what's
and the
tricky.
blue?
There is
Oh, yeah.
some
Okay.
painting over, there's some layering on it, just not as much.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a, you know, a little bit thinner rendition of it there. And yeah, and so then it's this constant decision making, as you all know, with paintings, of what to use, of the underpainting that is enhancing the image, and what needs to be covered up. Kind of, it's not working, you know.
Yeah.
But there's gestural marks, there's certain colors that are working with it and giving me ideas that I wouldn't have thought of if I was just trying to do a Buddha head. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
It's like that is the underneath is informing what's happening on top and enhancing it. So
How do you
Yeah.
do you use a brush or a knife, or both?
I'm
palette knife.
mostly palette knife. So
Okay,
I add,
So
when I worked in oil, I would add marble dust to the paint to give it more volume and texture. But with acrylic, I'm adding modeling paste.
Modeling paste, nice.
Yeah.
And so you
And-
said
and
with
using
both
with-
brush and
With
so
the
with the
palette knife.
eyes, this kind of detail. Did you do that with a palette knife, or do you use a
Certainly, yeah, those areas.
These are-
Yeah, and you know, I'm the charcoal has given me the outline of the different parts of the face and
Yeah.
stuff. So then once I can use a palette knife quite a bit. So it's not as much brush as palette knife.
But you have a tremendous mastery, not only of the composition, but of color as well. How did you learn to be such a great colorist? Because looking at all your paintings, you could see the control
love
of
color.
colors that you have.
I love color. And
Like this, you could just tell that she has a tremendous mastery of color. Virginia does, right? So how did you learn that, Virginia? Or was it instinctual?
I wouldn't say it was that instinctual. I mean, maybe it is, but I went to the museum school also, and I had a great color course there, the Joseph Albers color course.
Oh, nice.
And you know, and they'd have you like mix grays and you know, put different colors together and see what would happen and stuff. And it, I think a lot of people who draw well will never go into color. They're afraid of color. You know, the black and white works so well for them.
Yes.
But this was really helpful to get you not afraid of color. You know, oh look what you can do, and it's kind of fun experimenting and stuff.
Yes. And so you have a studio at Western Avenues, right? What's the number of your studio?
It's A202.
A202. And
Right near the loading dock gallery.
near the loading dock gallery, and you're usually there the opening Saturdays, right? The
Right.
first Saturdays of every month. If people want to come by and see your work or talk to you.
Definitely,
You're
I'd love
very-
to have them come by. Yeah,
Excuse me.
sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Virginia. Thank you.
Welcome.
Is there anything else you want to say about this particular painting before we move on? Then we can come back later, hopefully.
Okay. It's called
I just
Innocence.
want to hold it. Yeah, the
and,
color. There we go. Yeah.
and you know, I can talk about where the Buddha image came from.
Oh,
You
yeah,
want
please,
a little
please.
of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing yoga and meditation for about 7 years,
Yeah.
and doing a lot of spiritual studies too, reading up about Buddhism and Hinduism and all of that. And then one morning I was sitting meditation, and it was just like the light bulb went off, and I was like, I could paint the face of Buddha. I always loved to paint faces.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was like this perfect combining of the spiritual interest with the painting.
Yes.
And so I've been painting Buddha ever since. That was 2004.
2004.
And I
10
just
years.
feel it's like this bottomless well of inspiration for me
Yes.
and meaningfulness. And so it's like I'm always interested when I go to the canvas, and I'm going to do another Buddha.
And everybody seems to love them, right? They sell very well. Like you're
Yeah.
representative on Newberry Street, right, in a gallery there?
Yeah, I was with them
And-
for a couple of years, and then I had a lot of pain in my hands, and
Yeah.
I kind of burned out because it wasn't fun, it was painful. And I quit for 2 years, and so I've just been painting again since, as I said, last year when I came to the studios, Western Ave. And so I just got in touch, or they got in touch with me, kind of like, how are your hands? Are you are you painting?
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, actually I am, and so they're gonna start representing my work again, which is great. This summer they're gonna have
Wonderful.
a show in the Hamptons, and then next fall in November I'm gonna be in a 3-person show that's all gonna be kind of based around Buddha and stuff.
Wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
And your website, do you have a website called Virginia Peck or something?
VirginiaPeck.com.
.com. You can find the works there.
And then this is a print, actually, and I also have a print business called FacesOfBuddha.com, and I sell a lot of prints, and that's also kind of part of my website, but that's where people can order prints.
And they're fantastic too.
FacesOfBuddha.com.
FacesOfBuddha.com. Well, thank you so much, Virginia.
Thank you.
have. Hopefully, we can talk about your other painting later.
Sure.
Thank you. And maybe if we could talk to Paul again for a minute. And our time is zipping by. I can't believe it. So hopefully, we could talk to everybody again for a couple of minutes. And Paul, what are your aspirations? What are your goals in terms of the art world? Do you want to be in the Metropolitan Museum of Art someday, that kind of thing? What is your ultimate goal?
You know, it's interesting. I have no goals. I'm pretty clear about that. In a lot of ways, I feel like my goals might limit me. I think I'd rather be just kind of open to what the universe has in store for me. So that's how I've approached it since the beginning.
Amazing. Were you so surprised when your art started selling so well?
It was a little surprising. But it's interesting because when I started in 2006, I knew that I had to do it. It was I refer to it. You may have read some articles about me, but I refer to it as a calling.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I have to paint. Isn't that strange? And I did. I started painting. I started taking classes and getting studio space, and that's all I knew. I didn't know beyond that. So I just tried to stay in the moment and tried to work with my work.
And do you paint every day, Paul?
No, I don't paint every day.
How
there are
often?
days when I do. There are weeks when I do paint every day,
Yeah.
and then maybe a week will go by and I don't paint at all. So it's even that I try and stay in the moment with.
And do you have a studio, did you say, where you actually go in and paint rather than in your... You live in Cambridge now, right?
I live in Cambridge, and my studio in Cambridge is walkable from where I live.
Oh.
And that's good. I can get there in 10 minutes walking. But I also have shared exhibition studio space at 450 Harrison Ave in the south end of Boston. And I have painted there as well, but I do most of my painting in Cambridge.
It must be nice to have a studio like that, place to go to with all your supplies. Do you always paint it in acrylic, by the way?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
very
yeah,
much
so
an
far?
acrylic painter.
Could I ask why?
What Virginia was saying had a lot to do with it. I really wanted acrylic from the beginning because of I just thought it was more ecologically friendly and more healthy somehow.
Yeah.
To the body.
I like the fast drying aspect of it.
That's
versus,
true, too.
And the quicker cleanup than oils.
Well, as they say about acrylic painting, the biggest disadvantage is that it dries fast, and the biggest advantage is that it dries
Yes,
fast.
yes.
So true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Paul. We'll see what Don... So, Don, could you tell us what your ultimate goal is in your artistic endeavors?
I had actually worked in Chelmsford for approximately 18 years. I used to work at Stickney & Poor, the spice company on Alpha Road, and was there for 18 years as the procurement manager.
Really?
At some point, I got laid off and went to work at Trex Medical in Bedford, and then to Logic. And after getting laid off, I was probably 54. I decided that I'm all done. I've done the working thing, and the studio was in the back of the house, and it was a matter of my wife was good enough to keep working, and so my wife Jean kept working, and she says, paint. If you want to paint, paint. And so I would wake up in the morning and just literally walk out to the studio and paint.
Wow.
And
5, 6 days a week, 7 days?
as much as you want.
Yeah.
And eventually, Freddie Simon came into my studio one day, and he looked around and he says, my God, you have to have a show. And I says, what do you mean? He says, well, what are you going to do with all these paintings? I says, well, I hadn't thought that far in advance. I would just want to paint.
Yes.
And things worked out. I put a painting in a show at the Whistler House Museum. It won Best in Show at the Whistler House in the members show, and it gave me my first one-man show. And at that show, we sold, I think, 14 paintings that day.
At the
And
Whistler.
from that point on,
Wow.
Freddie was right. You have to have a show.
Yeah.
And it was funny how just that one simple statement was enough to
Yes.
get me out the door.
Wow. How many
And
years ago was that when you sold the 14 paintings at the
oh,
Whistler?
Approximately 5.
About
I believe
Oh,
5
that
years.
recently. Wow.
Yeah, not that long
How
ago.
long have you had your Western Avenue studio?
Right around 5 years.
About
pretty
the same
close
time.
to 5
So that's
years.
when
yeah.
really things started going.
Everything started to
Started
go.
clicking?
Well, if you're going to sell paintings, you can't very well sell them out of the house. That's not zoned for a business. So
Yeah.
I created a business, and
Yeah.
part of the thing was going to Western Avenue was the perfect place to be.
Yeah. And
It's zoned for business. You can sell
Yeah.
out of the studio, and so
And how do you do very well there in terms of selling your paintings?
it's worked out. Yeah, it's worked out extremely well. Yeah,
And
I'm
what's your
very
n-
pleased with it.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I see your wonderful wife is there with you every open house that I've been there.
Yeah,
She's so
somebody's got to
nice
take
to
care
be
of
there
that
with you.
kind
Yeah.
of stuff, and she's always done a great job with that. And she's very good. She worked in customer service for 27 years, and so she's a good people person. She's very good at talking to
As
people.
you are
and,
too. I always
thank
enjoy
you.
talking with you in your studio. What's the number of your studio?
It's 533.
533.
I'm on the 5th floor, not
And-
far from the freight elevator.
I see, yeah, 533. Right. Do you have a website too, or some way where people can get in touch, or look at your work, or buy your work?
They can see it. My son's actually right in the middle of creating a new website. So the old one is right at the moment is down, but it'll be Don Roulette Art, and that'll be up in the near future because he's going to load all the new
Wonderful.
paintings and stuff. Because the ones that were on the other website, most of those have been sold. So I really want to have new work up there.
Wonderful.
And recently, I just started working. Where this is a rather small painting, I started working on very large paintings.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so.
It's good to have the variety too, and especially as I think you get more well-known and your work is selling, then I think it's worth it to produce the larger
Mm-hmm.
ones. For someone who doesn't sell them, then they just accumulate in your house and you don't know. I know what that feeling is like, to have paintings accumulating. Well, thanks, Don.
Oh, my
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Trina, could I ask what your ultimate goals are in the artist world?
Well, I guess I'm similar to Paul, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, when I look backwards, I can see how things connect, how the dots connect, but I don't know how they're moving forward. And so I'm just going to keep trying new things, keep trying. This iPad thing that I told you about, that we were talking about, was a new thing that I just figured, well, I might as well share what I know about it and how it's helped me. And in 2010, I began a blog where I sort of set a challenge for myself of creating something daily. And creating something could be anything. It could be a sketch or a painting, or it could be a garden project or cooking. It could be anything that I could take a photo of and put onto my blog. And really, by doing that, I got such a strong sense of, I do create a lot, and I am an artist, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but it did sort of. A couple years ago, I got involved with doing the iPad art on my blog, and then that led to doing the presentation. So everything sort of organically evolves, and you don't really know. And likewise, being at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, that has sort of exposed me to all sorts of art opportunities as well.
Oh, it has? In
So-
what way, Trina?
Well, that's how I ended up teaching at the Art of Wine. But then I've had lots of shows and met lots of artists, and it's just being in the art world will help you be in the art world.
So it worked out well, and you plan to stay there at the Chelmsford Center for a long, long time.
Yeah, as long as they'll have me.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think you and I might have talked about Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, at
Yes.
one point.
yeah.
For those of you who are aspiring artists out there, I would recommend that you pick up this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I think Trina is one of the ones who really followed through in terms of, Julia recommended that every day you go to a journal and write like 3 pages, just stream of consciousness, not for anybody else to read or something like that. And I think Trina's been doing a lot of that,
Yeah,
right?
I
Or a
have.
lot of creativity.
I've definitely
is-
followed with her advice on that, and it helps you process things. And a lot of times I'll almost have a conversation with myself in the morning in my writing, and I'll convince myself to do something. I might convince myself to try a new series of paintings or something like that. So it's a way of getting in touch. It's almost like meditation, but it's a little bit more tangible.
Which is wonderful. And Julie also talks about, or this book by Frederick Frank called The Zen of Seeing, talks about the meditation of looking at something and drawing it. He says you don't really see something until you draw it. Mm-hmm. So you could go on vacation, for example, and if you draw a building, a beautiful Renaissance building or whatever, you really see it, all those details. And same thing with a tree or a squirrel or whatever, any little thing, a leaf,
Yes.
you really see it.
You go into almost like a hyper alert state where you're
Yeah.
just really aware of everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's crystal clear, which is
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons I love art so much and why I pursue it. And that's part of, I guess, my aspirations is to share that with other people, that that creating art
Yeah.
can really be so therapeutic.
Yes,
And
fulfilling, right?
yes,
And
fulfilling.
It helps open your senses, I think, to the world, to the beauty of the world. I think once you painted it, right, or draw it.
Right. It just
and
slows you down and
Yeah.
and helps you be more in the moment and just more aware.
Yes, yes. I had a quote on Daily Meditations about that about 5 days ago. Maybe it was with your painting, I don't know, from Julia Cameron,
Possibly.
about slowing down and focusing. And, that's what art helps us do, and be in the present moment,
Yep.
something like that. It was about 5 days ago or something. Well, thank you, Trina. Thanks. And so, Rita, could you tell us what your ultimate goals are and aspirations? And do you plan to stay at the Trumper Center for the Art? For
like-
the arts, for the
like
rest of your
Trina's-
career?
Yes, as Trina said, as long as they'll have us.
So what are your goals, Rita?
Well,
Sorry.
it's to paint,
To paint, yeah.
to paint.
You love painting too. You love the process of it, the meditation of it, or what? What inspires you?
Well, different things that you see, different things that happen to you. And I know that I won't be painting abstracts forever. I do plan to get back to realism because there's more blue houses out there. I have a backlog. There's about 8 of them, 8 more, besides the ones that I've done.
Yeah.
And I would like to have a show sometime called, I couldn't call it the House of Blues because I'd be sued. So I think I'll call it Houses of Blue.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're all really painted that color. They have to be painted that color.
So you're like Paul. You love blue because Paul has a lot of blue in his paintings. Yeah, that's
Two-person show
wonderful.
going on.
Do you have favorite blues like cobalt,
Well,
ultramarine?
ultramarine is the color.
Ultramarine,
The houses are that color.
Ultramarine.
With white
wonderful.
trim, they
And you-
sing.
Yeah. You paint in acrylic as well, right?
I gave, once acrylic came out, I put the oils away because they take way too long to dry.
Yes, yeah.
Because some of them, like alizarin crimson, takes years to dry.
Oh.
It really does, and
Yeah.
you can't paint over it till it's dry.
Yeah.
So, I always work on like 3 or 4 paintings or more at the same time.
Yes.
But
yeah.
still, the acrylics, and you can just do so much more with them.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Paula, could you tell us, what are your goals? Do you plan to stay at Western Avenue Studios and to grow there? Do you plan to get new galleries, representation, or anything?
I'm working towards that. That sometimes it takes one step at a time to get there, get that representation.
Yeah.
But I'm very comfortable at Western Ave.
Yep. You have a good time? How
I
long
have
have
a
you been
great
there?
time.
by the way?
5 years. 5 years.
5 years? And your room number again at Western Avenue?
8408.
8408.
Directly off the modern elevator, as I
Off the
call
modern
it.
elevator. Yeah, that's
Yes,
right. Easy to
yes.
get to.
Right. As far as goals go, I'm a little bit with these two here. My goal is to push myself a little, but my goal is really, if I'm happy with the product that I finish with, that's it. That's my goal.
Yes.
You know.
Wonderful.
So that's where it is.
And you're painting with all kinds of media, right? Oil,
Oil,
acrylic, pen and ink, watercolor.
watercolor.
Do you do pastels once in a while?
I
or
do
no?
pastels. I
You're
have a few
amazing, wow.
pastels. When you're in art school, we were exposed to every medium. Of course, you navigate to the one you love the most, which was watercolor.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to push myself a little bit into the oils. I find the oils I'm a little freer with.
Yeah. Oh.
I have a little more freedom with the
Why
oils.
are you freer with oils? I wonder.
I don't know. Maybe I'm using a larger brush. I don't seem to care as much as being so tight with the oils as I am with the watercolor.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And the
we'll see what
watercolors,
happens.
yeah.
I love
You're
my
amazing.
watercolors.
And you do it with pen and ink quite often.
Right, I do pen and ink and watercolor.
Chelmsford Center for the Arts
Yeah, thank you.
in watercolor and pen and ink, and it's
Yes.
amazing.
Pen and
you
ink?
make prints, didn't you? Of
Yes,
that
I
one?
did. The pen and ink will loosen me up.
Yeah, oh, really?
I can just do the pen and ink, no pencil, just do the whole drawing pen and ink.
Wow.
Just drop the watercolor in. But when
Wow.
it comes to my true watercolor, I love to sit there, zone out, and just paint and relax.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you, Paula.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Virginia, what are your? I'll hold up this other painting you brought in while we're talking, if we can.
Well,
Sorry.
the other one was a print, and this is
An original.
an original. So.
I see a nice sign in back there, Blue Lotus, 2013, Virginia Peck.
Right.
Nice.
And this was actually a Buddha that's at the MFA
Oh.
that I took photographs of, and it's black. The original in the museum is an all black Buddha. So this
Oh.
this kind of shows the underpainting, and I've covered the underpainting in some places and not in others.
Is it acrylic, did you say? I'm sorry.
It's acrylic.
Acrylic, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Could you tell us more about it? Or,
Well, let's see.
sorry, yeah,
Here's your water.
it's over there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, did you use a knife or a brush?
Yeah, a knife in, of course, the places where it's, a lot of texture and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see, I think there's some brushwork here and there, but and the underpainting was definitely probably a lot of brush.
A lot of brush.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So-
Does this have any, well, you can't say exactly what it means, right? Because all of your Buddhas probably have a similar theme or meaning for you.
Yeah, it's all about, serenity and compassion and
Yes.
love and
Yes.
meditation, kind of all the good stuff.
Yes.
That-
Do you do meditate, right, Virginia?
I
Or
do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Do yoga. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
So you've studied Buddhism and that kind of thing, and so
Yeah.
you represent a lot of that with your art and your paintings.
right.
I think, yeah, I try to do that sometimes too, represent spirituality in paintings to give it meaning. What's the purpose of the painting? I want to convey this feeling of love, compassion, forgiveness, peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. But I will, maybe, someday, if I live a little longer. But that's my goal, though. Oh, thank you very much, Virginia.
Sure.
We need to end the show. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you, but the time just flew by, and I had such a great time talking with all of you. It's amazing to have such great artists with us today. It's a true honor for me, and I think for all the viewers at home, to have you come here to Chelmsford and show your beautiful artwork and talk about it. It's a rare thing, and hopefully we could do these couple of times a year, maybe, these art specials. So thank you very much, Paul Pedulla, for being
Thank you.
here.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Always happy to be back in my hometown.
Yes, hometown of Chelmsford. And thank you, Trina Teal,
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
It was wonderful. Thank you, Paula Mingolelli.
You're welcome. That was a good discussion we had at Open Studios one day about you doing the show.
Yes, right,
Remember?
right. Yeah,
Yes.
it was probably
That
our
was in
idea together
December.
or
Yeah, that
something.
was great.
And I said, oh, yeah, let me start
You
lining
did.
it up.
You
Wow,
did.
and I did. Thank you very much, Don Roulette,
My
for being
pleasure
here.
being here.
And thank you very much, Rita Thompson.
Oh, thank you.
It was great. Thank you very much, Virginia
Thank
Peck.
you, Tom. It's been great.
And I'm going to be there on your Daily Meditations page using a lot of your pieces,
Wonderful.
which I think I've used all of them. Yeah, all of your pieces I've used on that Facebook page. If you haven't checked it out yet, you might want to check it out. Daily Meditations on Facebook. I also have a group called Chelmsford Arts on Facebook. You don't have to live in Chelmsford. There's about 310 members at the moment. And thank you for this wonderful crew.